Hey, this is Jared and you're watching Backroad Exploration. Today I'm out on another adventure into what I call the lesser known part of the San Rafael Swell. Last year I did a really fun trip through what I'm calling my new favorite way through the San Rafael Swell. I jumped on this exact trail right here just outside of Castledale, Utah, and headed into the swell, went by Swayze's Arch and a bunch of really cool things there. As I was doing that, I noticed a bunch of trails that went off and to the right and headed west through the swell in an area that I've never been in and very few people even talk about. So I'm excited to spend the next day and a half out exploring there, find a great place to camp tonight, and just take in all of this amazing desert scenery. Let's hit the trail. I'm getting a much later start today than I normally would. It's already past 1 o'clock and I'm just barely getting into the desert. My first objective kind of is really checking out a bunch of the spur trails in this area. Now, one of my favorite ways to explore areas is to kind of go through, take note of cool spur trails, try to see as many of those as I can, and then come back on another trip and hit all of those spur trails that I bypassed. It's kind of a cool way that you can go explore it's almost like you're exploring a whole new area because they are new trails, but you kind of have some of the familiarity down and you get an idea of the type of pace that you can put through. That's one of the things that's hardest for me to know is how long it's going to take me to get through something. So if I kind of go through on my regular trip and then maybe do a follow-up trip later on where I can come through and hit the spur trails, I have a good idea of how much time I need to spend in the area. Now, all the trails I'm going to be on over the next day or so are pretty much all new, but I have done quite a bit of exploring here and I passed up all of these spur trails that look really cool and I don't want to do that. I love spur trails. If you've watched this channel long, you know that they're one of my favorite things about exploring. So right now, just on this really cool little 2-track, loving some time in the desert. Man, I love these little desert 2-tracks. You can see this one, you know, it probably gets a couple visitors a year, but probably not much more than that. And it's one of those ones, it's off of a pretty big, you know, well-trafficked road that just gets bypassed. There's so many unique little cool trails like this. It's definitely worth taking the time to check them all out. This right here is one of the many reasons that I just love spur trails. They often lead to cool overlooks and things like that. This one's interesting because it's been just this nice sandy dirt track and you get to the end of it and there's all these boulders and stuff that are falling off into this ravine. So underneath that sand, there must be a lot of rock, but check out all of these cool boulders. This beautiful view, really neat. Just made it down to the end of this long spur trail, and it comes out this nice little ledge looking out over this beautiful valley. I would love to camp here, but it is really windy, and my guess is it's gonna be really windy all night. And I would like to go for a couple more hours, but beautiful. Check all of this out. Wow, this is beautiful. Check out these rocks. This is going to make a beautiful campsite. Check out this view out in front of me. Well, found a really beautiful spot to camp. It is a lot more windy than I was hoping for, but it's absolutely stunning. These rocks that are back behind me are amazing. There's this river that goes through right here. It's frozen, which just shows that it is still winter. I'm sure because of all the rocks, it gets a lot of, you know, shade, which is keeping it cold. It's funny, the sun has finally dropped below and it's starting to feel really cold now. It's felt so nice all day today. You know, this is the beginning of February, and we've been having unseasonably warm weather. It was like in the mid 50s today, so it was feeling warm, quite warm at multiple times. But as you'll see, parts of this river are still frozen over. Beautiful campsite. Molly trying to find her way back up. She went down a pretty steep spot. She doesn't want to climb back up it. There you go, good girl. I'm really liking this campsite. It's beautiful. It's really cool that the river is right there. The only downside that I'm seeing is, man, it is so windy and I have not a ton of protection from it now. I'm not willing to move at this point in time. By the time I find something else, it could be dark. I don't know if I'm even gonna have something that's not gonna be windy. It's just a really windy day, which I was really looking forward to having a night around the campfire this evening, but not with this wind. There's so much dry sagebrush and stuff around. That's way too big of a fire risk. So I'm gonna start making dinner in a few minutes, but a little bummed with how windy it is. you know, plenty of space in here. I've actually got a big jug for water. Normally I wouldn't do that if it was needed more space, but I'm actually keeping a bunch of my dry goods in here too, just because that eliminated me having to carry another box with dry goods. And plenty of space in here for, you know, a couple nights worth of food. I would guess I could do the whole family for 3 days, and after that we'd start getting tight unless we were eating a lot of like more dry good type foods. Well, tonight for dinner I'm doing a total cheater meal. I actually have a burrito that I purchased that I'm just going to reheat. I threw it in the fridge earlier today. I didn't want to have to do a bunch of cleanup and stuff, and I love a good breakfast burrito, so I actually just picked one up from one of my favorite places. I'm going to reheat it. I actually had planned to put some tinfoil around it and try to reheat it in the engine bay as I was driving, and I forgot. I got carried away with the time and some of the trails that we were doing, so now I'm just going to throw it on the stove, try to heat it up, and then get out of this wind. It is so windy right now. It's not really that cold. I'm mostly just wearing my big jacket because when it's winter I just bring it, but it's a little bit cold and really windy. You hungry, pup? After a nice dinner, it was time to call it a night. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe so that you can catch the rest of my adventure as I head deeper into the lesser known part of the San Rafael Swell. If you want to follow my adventures on the day-to-day, you can do so on Instagram at Backroad Exploration. Thanks so much for watching.